All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's session, From Complexity to a Connected Enterprise, a complete solution for CFOs. My name is Vittorio, and I'm the marketing manager here at Leverage Technologies. And joining us today is Philippe and Sue. They are technical specialists at Sage Australia. Just a bit of housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions, you can use the Q&A box or comment section, and we will answer all the questions at the end of the session. If we run out of time, we will answer all the questions individually via email in the coming days. So before I hand over to Philippe and Sue, why are Leverage Technologies and Sage presenting this topic today? Well, first of all, Leverage Technologies, we have been around since 2005, and we are an award-winning Sage Platinum partner with offices in Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. So after spending more than 12 years listening to senior CFO leaders, we have discovered that many enterprises with complex financials face common challenges such as data consolidation, real-time access to analytics, multi-company, multi-country management, and more. Based on this knowledge from finance professionals across Australia, we have partnered with world-class software leader Sage to offer a tailor-made solution for CFOs. So the purpose for today is to give an overview of such solution through a bit of a role play demonstration. The role play will see Philippe as the CFO of a multinational organization called Quantic Medical Imaging, and Sue will be the solution architect, showing how Sage Enterprise Management can solve some of the key challenges that Philippe is currently facing. So Philippe and Sue, over to you.
Well, thank you, Vittorio.
Thanks, Vittorio.
Just a few words about Quantic Medical Imaging. So we started out in Melbourne about 15 years ago to manage the Eastern Seaboard. We then opened an office in Perth to look after South Australia, WA, and also Southeast Asia, where we had an agent in Singapore. 2 years ago, we opened an office in Germany, in Hamburg, to develop all of Europe. Last year, we acquired that agent that we had in Singapore, and they happen to have a small manufacturing arm in China. So I'm now looking after a global business of some sort, and I have all that currently on disparate systems, and it's really hard to have an accurate picture, an up-to-date view of the entire business. We're also doing some preparatory work to have the company floated, so I need to put order in all that. I have multiple currencies to deal with, so I've got obviously Australian dollar, Sing dollar, my euros, and I also have yuan in China, and also I'd like to report in a parallel currency, USD. So quite a lot of complexity, there. Almost forgot something, Sue. It's fine, for people to operate in English in Australia, Singapore, but my colleagues in Hamburg, I think they would prefer to operate in German and have all their screens and reports in German, and probably even more than that in China. I need the software to work in Chinese. So how can you help me with all of that?
Thanks for that, Philip. Let me show you how Sage Enterprise Management can help you with your business. So what we're looking at here is what we call a landing page within the software, and I've put together a bit of a map of how your companies would actually look and how they would group. So what we're seeing here is we have a top level, which is all your companies together. Underneath that, we have the legislation. So you can see that we've got Australia, Germany, Singapore, and China as legislations. In fact, we have a number of legislation packs. Underneath that, then we have the companies. So we've got, perhaps we could have 2 companies in Australia. At the moment, you only have the one, but you may expand into 2. We've got Germany, Singapore, and China sitting underneath their correct legislation packs. So the legislation packs take care of all those legislative rules that you have to abide by within the particular country. Underneath companies, we then come down to a site level. So for instance, you mentioned that you've got Melbourne and Perth under Australia, which we're looking at here. You've got then your other sites for your other countries, but then what you have is you've got the ability to transact intersite. So the system will actually automatically create the correct intersite transactions, and you have the same there for intercompany. So what that does is that actually negates, you know, any of the double handling that's normally required for intercompany type transactions. The other thing that you mentioned is that you would like to see the screens in different currencies. Before I do that, I'll just talk about the different account core models. So we'll just drill into that. What we're seeing here is there are a number of different ledgers that you can have for your different companies. Here you'll notice that we're looking at China. There's multiple ledgers there. So the first ledger is the legal ledger, and this is the main ledger for statutory reporting. So you'll notice here that if we look at the currency is in Chinese yuan. The next ledger down is analytical, and this works with what we call dimensions, which we'll touch base on a little bit later. What we see here is that this particular currency is in US dollars. A third one, which some of your companies might have, is the International Accounting Standards. So if you've got to do reporting around those, you've got the ability to have that ledger. And this fourth one's quite important because this is saying that this ledger is part of a group of ledgers which are all going to be reporting in Australian dollars. So, you know, in that case, you would have a similar setup for Germany and any of your other sites that you actually work with. Over here, we've got rate types. So this is how your foreign currency exchange rate is updated. So it could be daily, monthly, or an average rate. So that's probably one of the most important areas, you know, when you're setting up your ledgers.
Talking about the ledger in Australian dollars, the group one, do I need to run anything, you know, at month end to populate it, or is it constantly refreshed as soon as a transaction happens in yuan? It's mirrored in the Australian ledger.
That's exactly how it happens.
Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing that you actually need to run for it. The other thing that's important to note too, that while it's ideal to have all your ledgers, you know, the chart of accounts the same, you actually don't need to do that because the system is able to look, there's mapping behind, so the system is able to map the accounts correctly for that. Talking about your language requirements, so what I'm going to do is close this one off. If we look under here, under Administrator, you see here that there's a whole lot of different languages that you can actually present your screens in. We have a look here. Here's actually Chinese. So this is how your Chinese company may see their information. If we pop into favorites and have a look at product, you'll see when the product comes up that there's actually Chinese for the product as well. So let's just close it off so you can see. So you've got your tabs in Chinese, description in Chinese.
Excellent. And the same thing in German, I expect.
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay.
So we'll pop back over to England here so that I can actually understand what's presented to me. So I'm just going to come back so that to the PowerPoint.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about purchasing. I've got something a bit complex happening. We've got a very large Japanese supplier
from
and
Australia.
they want to deal
a lot of work
with
because
my
Singapore
office in
has to place a
Singapore
purchase
too small
order
with us. So they insist that re-enter it with Japan, and then Japan ships the goods, and the same thing for invoicing. So that's a lot of double handling. Is there anything you could do with that? Can that be automated?
Yes, it can. that's a crazy amount of double handling that you have to do there. So let me walk you through how Sage Enterprise Management can help reduce that double handling by automating the intercompany transactions. So looking at the example on the screen, I'm just going to bring up a purchase order that was created earlier. So what we're seeing here is a purchase order. The order site was Singapore, which is what you were talking about, and the supplier is Australia. So Singapore is placing an order, an intercompany type order on Australia. If you note here, it's actually ticked that it's intersite and intercompany. So we're very aware of that. You know, the moment you look at a screen, you know that this is an intercompany transaction. If I move into the total section here, what we're seeing is that there's a link, an automatic link that was created. We're able to see the sales order. So we can see the sales site is our Quantic Perth office, and we've sold it to Singapore. So that's an automatic creation of that purchase order, sales order. So that your Australian staff doesn't have to recreate the purchase order, this time on the Japanese supplier, it's possible to also create what we call a back-to-back purchase order. So that's created from the sales order, and it automatically creates a purchase order on your Japanese supplier. So all of this is just happening automatically for you without you having to re-enter any information.
Yeah, because it's the same information.
Finally, to completely close this loop, as Australia is invoicing sister company Singapore, Enterprise Management will automatically create the accounts payable invoice in Singapore's books to match the original purchase order.
Great.
So as you can see, that takes a lot of that extra work out of your management.
Now, still about purchasing. Well, the rest of my operation, Europe and Australia, they place orders and from Japan onto my Japanese supplier. But at the moment, I've got my Japanese suppliers created in the German system, in the Australian system. So do I still have, to do that, to create multiple entries, multiple records for the same supply? The same for our customers. Some of our customers are ordering from several of our different subsidiaries. So I have, the same customer created multiple times. Is it something that I still need to do now?
No. The beauty of using a system like Enterprise Management, basically, because it's all in one single database, means that you only need to set up one customer or one supplier, no matter how many countries that you actually, have worked within. So an example of where this customer that deals with Australia, China and Germany, most of their business is with Australia, but they max their credit limit out in this particular case. In order to purchase goods, they may decide to place orders on Germany or any of your other companies. And if you don't have visibility of all of that, that really exposes you to their particular financial issues. So let's just have a look at an example of how this can actually work for you. Just very quickly, navigation, because I didn't really discuss navigation, I'll show it to you. Navigation can be down roles, down this left-hand side, and all of these would come into a landing page. You've then got, you can use your tabs across the top of the screen as well. And of course, you've got favorites. So this is an example of a customer that we have here. I'm just going to close these off to give us a little bit more room. In fact, before I do that, what I will explain here is down this left side of the screen, these are all the customers that we have in the system. This middle pane here is the customer that we're currently looking at or working on. And if this right-hand side is different processes that we're able to do based on what is on this screen here. So I'm going to close this one off to give us a little bit more real estate, and I'm going to use this screen to have a look at what we call the business partner situation. When we're in this business partner situation, I can have a look at it a number of different ways. So I'll start with having a look at it by our company here.
So this is one of our companies, for instance.
This at the moment is one company and the multiple sites within that particular company because I've left site blank.
So I can see the view of that customer, or as you call it, situation, under that one company. So for instance, my European subsidiary.
So what we're seeing here under this company, this is the site, but I'm seeing that, so these are the sites here.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm seeing is that one of our sites currently owes us over $19,000.
Yeah.
And another one of the sites currently owes us $16,000.
Yeah.
If, for instance, and it's sitting in over 120 days.
Mm-hmm.
So we have our credit terms set up around that. We know that they're out of their credit limit. So the system, no matter what else they actually try to buy from us,
Mm-hmm.
will be warned or they'll be stopped.
Yep.
Based on your rules. If we take this a bit further, and let's just take the company out, and let's just look at all our companies that we have across the globe and do a search. What we see now is that we've got a number of sites. We've even got one over here in Germany, for
Mm-hmm.
instance. So we can see that this particular customer is purchasing from us from all around the globe.
Yeah.
So it's important to know that, so that you're not caught up in any of their financial issues.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm just going to pop back into.
Yeah, I've got another question for you, Sue. Okay. Let's talk about reporting. So, of course, I will have to do reporting by company, Europe and Singapore, etc. But I've got another style of reporting that I really need, which is based on the location where the customer is. So, of course, I will have, all of Europe, and then all my customers that you can see the little dots, in across Asia and Australia, etc., are going to be part of, Asia Pacific. And I'd like to organize my reporting, that way as well. I also want to report by product group. And also, sometimes we have large organizations, in the medical field that operate hospitals and facilities across different countries, and they give us, a contract to install, and implement imaging equipment across, these different countries. And I'd like to be able to track that, we will consider that as a contract or a project. And I want to see all expenses and all revenue for that particular piece of work, that we've done.
Okay, look, let me show you how we can work with that. I'm just going to close this page off. So earlier I mentioned analytical reporting. This is managed by using dimensions. So an analytical dimension is designed to aggregate the accounting information, but for analytical and budgetary purposes, rather than the types of reporting that you might need to send to your bank, for instance. So there's a variety of ways that analytical dimensions and dimension types are used, and that varies by all companies. So it's very flexible. You set it up the way that you need it to be. Philip, in your case, we would have a dimension set up for geography,
yes,
around your sales, product group and contract.
Yep.
So on the screen, we're going to just have a look at an example of we're going to have a quick look of how it would look on a customer. I'm just going to bring up the same customer we looked at earlier. And if we go into the financial section of this customer, what we see here is analytical dimensions that are set up. So in this particular case, I've got cost center set up, I've got project or contract. It may be a product group. I've also got a market, but more importantly, just to show you your first one, which is your sales region.
Yes.
So any transactions that are posted for this company are captured in the SR dimension type, which is your sales region dimension type.
Yes.
And the dimension itself is US dollars. If I just do a quick drill back on this, we can see we can have any number of dimension types.
Yep.
Because obviously you're not going to have customers just in one place. You're going to have customers all over the world.
Right.
So they'll fit into the geography the way that you have it set up within the system.
That's just an extra piece of information that is given to the GL for me to do reporting at a later stage.
That's correct.
Okay.
What we are going to have a look at is an example of the hierarchy that can be set up for dimensions. just using this screen here, I'm just going to drill back into analytical pyramids. And what you're seeing here now is an example of how the reporting structure may work for the analysis or the analytical reporting. We're starting off, these are our different customers within different countries. So these are the countries that we have customers in, to be actually put that around the other way.
Yeah.
So you've got Asia Pac over here, Europe. These guys have a level of reporting up to Europe. These ones up to Asia Pac, and then they can all report up to a total.
Yeah.
So you can have multiple levels here. It doesn't have to be, this is reasonably flat.
Yeah.
You don't have to have it this flat. It depends on your actual setup.
And is it drag and drop? It looks like
it is drag and drop, so
okay.
you can just drag them around as you need to.
Okay.
The other thing is that you might have slightly less traditional reporting structures that are important. And if we have a look at another example here, Hans Mueller is one of your sales managers, let's just say, and he doesn't have responsibility just for Germany. He actually has a responsibility for China as well. And, you know, they're in totally different analytical groups. So what we've done is we're able through these pyramids to put them all into the same one so that we get sales reporting on Germany, China, and then we get a total.
Okay.
So, you know, you're able to set up your, say your sales managers with non-traditional type structures to work with.
So it's the same information, but I can have different views, you know, over it.
Absolutely. That's exactly right. So they're also used in, so, you know, analytical dimensions and pyramids are also used in different types of reporting. So I'm just going to show you.
Budgets as well?
Absolutely. You can set up budgets. In fact, it's a really good idea to set up your budgets by these because it gives you then that non-traditional type of budget reporting as well.
Yep.
If we just have a look here at a quick inquiry, so you can have different inquiries and reporting. So you can work within the standard reporting, you can work within the business intelligence type reporting, also do inquiries. And what I've set up here is a memo, which I've called financials, without a W, to show me the information based on that sort of structure that we just looked at a short time ago. All this information here, because I've set this up as a memo and recalled it, is automatically captured. So you can have any number of these set up. So that if you want a quick inquiry, you can just pop into the memo that you've set up and have a look at it.
My filters. So rather than repeating them again and again, I just...
That's correct. You just save them as a memo.
Great.
So I just do an OK here. What you'll note is that down here, because I've set up a couple just to show you how it will work. We have, for our sales account, we have Europe, and this is currently the sales for Europe in the date range that I have up here. And the same for Asia Pac. I can look at the details and that will then take me down further. So now I can see that you've got France, Germany and Spain all sitting in here. And, you know, if you've got way more countries than that in Europe, then you're able to see all of those. If we just, so I'll just quick look at Asia Pac, so you can see the details in there. So there we've got Australia, China, New Zealand. If we had other levels below that, we would be able to keep on look at them all. Just when we turn details off, if we move at a level, this then just gives us the overall figure for everything. So any of this information in this type of a screen, a quick type screen, you can also push out to Excel.
And that would be in Australian dollars.
That's correct. Because that's how we've said we want these grouped in Australian dollars. The other reporting that I would just like to take you through is the business intelligence reporting, which we're going to have a look at here. So the Sage Business Intelligence tool, which is called EDMA, which is Enterprise Data Management Analytics, reporting is able to report at group level with easy drill down to your individual companies. So what I'd like to show you here is that at the moment we're looking at the Chief Financial Officer dashboard. We're looking at all companies. So really simply, I can just say, I'm just going to reload this session. Okay, because it's been sitting there doing nothing for a while. If we look at companies, I'm just going to unselect them and say, let's just have a look at this one company here.
Yeah.
So very easily, the system's refreshing at the same time that I'm changing. So immediately,
That's fast.
as the CFO, I'm able to see one country only.
Yeah.
A number of these types of dashboards and tools come set up with the system already. So you don't have to design all of this. This is actually there.
So all these measures are available when I start.
That's correct.
Okay.
And not only that, then you can also have somebody that's trained in this type of reporting that can build your own reports for you. So, we've got the one company. We can, if we look here, we can do it by one of our sites or all of our sites. We've got dates and all sorts of other options. But, we looked earlier at the different types of ledger types. Well, in this particular site, we've only got legal. But if I come back into here and select all my companies, so that's looking at everything again across the board. Going to ledger types, there I've got legal analytical group. I've got the different ones that we can actually report on. So, you can see that the information that you're putting in, is being presented back to you in your business intelligence tool as part of the standard reporting pack. The other things I can do here is if we have a look at this here, I can drill back. So I can open the, let's say, income statement dashboard. And what this is going to do now is open up that particular income statement with some other, what I call widgets opposite.
Okay, so I can use it also to do more, standard reporting as opposed to just dashboards.
Yeah, absolutely. If I pop home, and so I've got options here that I can actually work with, but just want to just work with the CFO dashboard a little bit more. You also have drill down. So for instance here, there's a balance sheet I can work with. If it's accounts receivable, I can open the accounts receivable manager dashboard. I can go into sales dashboards. If you have a manufacturing arm, you can go into manufacturing dashboards. So it's very easy to navigate all of, these particular.
And all these dashboards are prepared already, all these measures. It's not something that you have to start telling you, we'd like this, and etc. That's
correct. Okay. And on these dashboards, you can actually, if they're set up a certain way, you can actually drill back to the originating transaction as well. So, we've had a bit of a look at analytical reporting. We've had a look at the business intelligence tool. Just to complete the reporting, you said that you're preparing to float. Board packs are obviously going to be really important. So do you have any sorts of issues with, how long do they take you to create a board pack now within the system?
Well, let's say that it's not the most fun part of my job. As you can imagine, all this is running at the moment on different systems. And I do a lot of that in Excel. So I have to get an Excel extract of every single subsidiary in the world, and then give that to my team, and we do a lot of work to present that in a form that is digestible at board level. So again, a lot of work, and if you can help with that, I'd be very interested.
Okay, so what you're able to do with EDMA is create your own board packs, and doing that you can work with, you can add logos, you can add pictures, you can add visual representations of the screens that you're looking at here. So look, I did prepare one earlier. Let's just pop in and have a look at it. It's my Quantic Imaging company.
Thank you for preparing that for us.
Yeah, so you can start off with the content screen. I've done it reasonably plainly, but these can actually be really quite pretty. If we move down through here, there's notes. So as my notes in here, I've talked about the fact that we had a solid first quarter, where to go to see those metrics, expenses increased but below budget. So, you can have a look at the P&L, and the same with some manufacturing variances. So as we keep coming down, you can see that same representation that we looked at earlier. Here's a balance sheet. Here's an income statement. Finishing up with some sales in here. So we've got the sales graph, and then we've got some manufacturing report sitting in here as well. So there's particular, once you've designed your board pack, and you run it, it updates automatically. You don't have to do anything else. You just run it, and then you can automatically schedule for them to be sent out to the board members at, any time that you want them to be sent out.
That's great. So we can, rather than assembling all that, this is sort of set and forget, and we can focus on analysing the results and putting commentary for the board. And then, this is ready in a matter of minutes or hours, as opposed to, days and days as we do at the moment.
Absolutely. Okay. Yep. So I think that is actually the end of our presentation. If anybody has any questions, so let me just
check. Thank you, Sue. That was very enlightening. It's definitely going to help us, with our business. And I wish I could take, this board pack with me today.
You're most welcome.
All right. Thank you, Philippe and Sue, for this great presentation of Sage Enterprise Management. That was very, short and sharp presentation in 30 minutes. Now, if anyone from the audience has any questions, you can use the Q&A functionality. Let's have a look. So one of the questions, can the system handle realized and unrealized foreign exchange gain and loss? I'm not sure.
Yes, I can answer that one. As you trade in foreign currencies, obviously there's the difference between the time you incur the expense and the time you pay it, or there's a currency fluctuation. So the system will track that one. So that's realized foreign exchange gain and loss, and the system is also geared to handle unrealized foreign exchange gain and loss by performing revaluations at month end, for instance, and looking at all your receivables, all your payables, and doing revaluation at that time at the rate of your choice.
All right, there you go. We'll just take another question before we end the session. Can the system handle accounts that are not treated the same way in different countries?
Yeah, no, some countries obviously have a slightly different interpretation of accounting. For instance, goodwill is not always treated the same way. In some countries, it can be depreciated, in others not. So because of the multi-ledger setup in Sage EM, it is possible to map accounts into different accounts. It's you're able to map multiple accounts into one, for instance, or map them into areas, different areas in the chart of accounts. So that would handle that, quite well too.
All right, thank you, William. Well, we'll wrap it up here. You'll receive a recording of the session in the coming days, as well as a white paper with more information on this topic. And if you have any question, please feel free to get in touch. Let us know. Yeah, thanks for attending. Have a great week. Thank you.